I've been with Nathaniel for 10 years. I had his favorite gardenia flower tattooed on my collarbone. Finally, he agreed to marry me, but he was keeping an 18-year-old girl on the side. Before the wedding, he indulged in the girl's countdown to breaking up with me. He accompanied her to do bungee jumping, skiing, and went to Iceland to watch the aurora. But he didn't know that I didn't have much time left to live. I booked a plane ticket to go abroad, donated all of his family fortune, and had the tattoo removed. While he was counting down the days to the wedding every day, I was planning to leave him. On the day I was diagnosed with stomach cancer, the girl Nathaniel was keeping outside took the initiative to come to me. "I know I'm the mistress," she said. The girl was terrifyingly sincere when she opened her mouth. She bit her lip and said, "Sister, I know you two are getting married soon, but Nathaniel doesn't love you anymore. I've been with him for a year. We slept together 78 times. 53 times were in hotels, 21 times were at my place. And 4 times were at your place, on your bed." She looked straight at me and said, "If Nathaniel still loved you, I wouldn't exist at all." I found it funny when I heard that. I lit a cigarette and looked at her through the smoke. "What else?" "Keep going." Then she took out her cell phone and played a video for me. The angle of the video was obscure, as if it had been secretly filmed. The girl nestled in Nathaniel's arms, crying, "Even if you're going to marry her out of a sense of responsibility, please don't abandon me, okay?" Nathaniel pushed her away and threw out a bank card. "Find a down-to-earth man. It's not a good thing to be with me. It's too dangerous." "No." She hugged his waist and acted coquettishly. "I'm not afraid of danger. Please don't abandon me, okay? Nathaniel, I won't be a burden to you, definitely not." Nathaniel was stunned for a moment, his eyes swept over her face, and he was distracted for a while. Then he kissed her. I put out the cigarette. The girl was just 18 years old this year, with a face full of collagen, really pure. Moreover, I knew at the moment I saw her. She looked a lot like me. Very much like Mia when she was 18. "What you said is right. If Nathaniel still loved me, you wouldn't exist at all," I said. I stood up. Actually, my abdomen hurt a little. I supported myself on the table but didn't show it. "But I advise you not to get too deep into it either. Nathaniel has never loved you, nor me. He only loves Mia in his memories. That pure and wonderful Mia who had already died on the road to helping him rise to power. In a few years, he'll meet a new substitute. By then, you'll only be worse off than I am." Actually, I lied to her. "I'm dying soon. How could she be worse off than me? At most, she'll just be tired of by Nathaniel and then dumped." I started following Nathaniel when I was 18. I grew up without parents. My grandmother who brought me up passed away when I was 15. That's when Nathaniel showed up. He chased me passionately. He spent money like crazy, eager to put all the best things in the world in front of me. Nathaniel was handsome and made me feel very secure. I quickly fell for him. On my 19th birthday, he coaxed me to have sex for the first time. That night, from pain to indulgence, I became one with him completely. The next day, Nathaniel took me to meet his group of buddies. I hadn't been in such a situation before. I timidly tugged at the corner of Nathaniel's clothes and quietly greeted people along with him. The looks they gave me were full of mockery. "Nathaniel, why did you find a little girl? She's too well behaved. She'll easily hold you back." At that time, I didn't know what they meant by hold you back. I couldn't help but whisper in rebuttal, "No, I won't. I won't be a burden to Nathaniel. Definitely not." But later, as I gradually got in touch with Nathaniel's environment, I realized what kind of life he was living. It was like licking blood from the tip of a knife. In order not to hold Nathaniel back and to be able to stand by his side, I could only force myself to integrate into that environment. In 10 years, I cut my hair short, dyed it, smoked cigarettes, and got tattoos. There were even countless scars on my body. Because I was tough enough, I accompanied Nathaniel to climb to the position of the second-in-command in the underground world of Beijing. But Nathaniel didn't seem happy. On countless nights, he held me in his arms, his fingers brushed over the scars on my body, and then he leaned over and kissed them. Mia. He buried his face in my chest and sighed, I still like the way you were back then. And I always pushed him away after being stunned for a moment, lit a cigarette, and cursed with a laugh. Nathaniel, you're really heartless when you say that. It was already early morning when Nathaniel got home. I was lying in bed. Actually, I wasn't asleep. I just stared at the darkness with my eyes open, until Nathaniel pulled me into his arms. Still awake. He lowered his head to kiss me but missed. After being stunned for a while, he held me back, suppressing his temper. Who made you angry? I'll go and cut him down, okay? Nathaniel. Yeah. The room was so dark that I couldn't see his face clearly. But I could smell the gardenia fragrance on him. Let's break up, I said. Nathaniel's body stiffened, and then he let go of me and lay down beside me. What's wrong now? He impatiently pressed his eyebrows. You're not a little girl anymore. Why are you being so melodramatic? Why break up? He laughed. Mia, you're not young anymore. Who would marry a wife who smokes, drinks, has tattoos, and is even tougher than men and take her home? My chest hurt. I pressed my heart hard, but I couldn't suppress the fine pain at all. Last year when I had stitches on my arm, I was allergic to the anesthetic. 12 stitches, sewn up without anesthesia, and I didn't make a sound while biting my teeth. But Nathaniel's few sincere words when he was drunk made my eyes turn red. Nathaniel, I couldn't help but want to ask him, if I got a terminal illness, you. Mia. He interrupted me, with a hint of impatience between his brows. Stop asking such silly questions. If you really got a terminal illness, would it be okay if I accompanied you to commit suicide? He pressed his eyebrows. I'm busy with the wedding and business recently. I don't have much energy to coax you. Don't be so fussy. While we were talking, his cell phone suddenly rang. Nathaniel hung up impatiently. But the other person called again. After several rounds of this, Nathaniel took his cell phone and got out of bed. Speak. The girl's crying came through the receiver, not very clear. Nathaniel cursed. Damn it, so troublesome. Even though he said it was troublesome, he still rushed out the door. There's a problem with the business. I'll go and deal with it. Go to bed early. Don't wait for me. The wedding between me and Nathaniel is scheduled for the 3rd day of next month. The wedding will be a simple one. I haven't told Nathaniel about my illness. It's in the terminal stage and basically incurable. I also haven't told Nathaniel that I won't marry him at all. I can accept everything about Nathaniel. Except for his betrayal. Just thinking about him holding another woman in his arms, kissing her eyebrows and eyes, and looking for the shadow of my youth on her makes me feel sick to my stomach. It's really disgusting. I started following Nathaniel when I was 18 and it's been exactly 10 years now. Now the doctor said that I only have half a year left to live. Calculating like this, I've wasted almost half of my life on him. With so little time left, I just want to be Mia. I've booked a plane ticket to go abroad. I want to take advantage of the strength I still have to see the world that I love but have never been to before, and the plane ticket is also booked for the 3rd day of next month. In the early morning, I crossed out a day on the calendar. There were still 10 days left before going abroad. Then the sound of the door opening came from behind me. Nathaniel came in wrapped in wind and snow. He took off his coat and walked over to hug me. He still didn't like my short hair. His eyes followed mine and landed on the calendar. Looking at the heavily circled 3rd day of next month, Nathaniel laughed and gently pinched my face. Can't wait to marry me? He counted. There are still 10 days. He buried his face in my neck. I'll find time to accompany you to dye your hair black and get hair extensions in these 2 days. You'll be so beautiful at the wedding. No need. I looked at the calendar expressionlessly. There aren't many days left. Short hair is fine too. Nathaniel was silent for a long while. Yeah. He let go of me, picked up the coat hanging on the chair. There are a lot of things to deal with for the wedding. Third brother's place was smashed up yesterday. I'm busy recently and won't be back for a while. Nathaniel stared at me while speaking. It seemed that he was waiting for me to give in. Waiting for me to say, okay, accompany me to dye my hair and get hair extensions. But I just looked back at him indifferently. Go ahead. Anyway, there are only 10 days left. Nathaniel didn't say anything and turned around to step into the night. He never looked back. When there were still 7 days left before the wedding, I went to a tattoo parlor in the suburbs. The owner of the parlor was in her 30s, well maintained, but her eyes were full of vicissitudes. She took a look at me. What do you want to tattoo? I rolled up my sleeve, pointed to the SC on my wrist bone, and then showed her the gardenia flower below my collarbone. Remove them all. The owner took a look and said, it'll be very painful to remove them, and there will be scars left. I smiled. I'm not afraid. Now I'm least afraid of pain. As for the scars, I have so many scars all over my body, and these 2 more don't matter. What's more, maybe in half a year, this body will turn into ashes. The owner chatted with me. Broken up? I smiled. Yeah, almost. There are still 7 days. The owner clicked her tongue. So much sense of ceremony. There's even a countdown for breaking up? Perhaps it was too quiet in the store, or maybe I just hit it off with the owner. Somehow, the moment I saw her, I felt that we were kindred spirits. I talked to her about the past. At the beginning, when Nathaniel was chasing me, I gave him a time limit. 300 days. If he could persevere, I would be with him. So every morning when Nathaniel showed up in front of me, he would count the days. 179 days left in the countdown. Mia, there are 96 days left, and you'll be my girlfriend. There's only 1 day left, my would-be girlfriend. The boy who chased me for 300 days regardless of wind or rain back then gradually grew tired of me in the following 10 years. I had a great chat with the owner. When removing the tattoos, I told her the meanings of those 2 tattoos. This SC on my wrist bone was tattooed when I had been with Nathaniel for a year. At that time, I was kidnapped by his enemies to threaten him. Nathaniel went to the appointment alone to save me. Knowing it was a deadly trap, he went without hesitation. That time, he was almost hacked to death. When he was discharged from the hospital, I went to a tattoo parlor and tattooed the initials of his name on my wrist bone. At that time, I naively thought I would be with Nathaniel for the rest of my life. But that night, when I showed my still red wrist to Nathaniel like showing off a treasure, he was stunned. There wasn't the emotion feeling that I expected. He frowned, first asked me why I did it, and then asked me if it hurt. Finally, he hugged me in his arms. Don't do this again in the future. I don't like it. I don't like you hurting yourself. You're fine as you are. There's no need to change. I really like the clean and flawless Mia. I was young at that time and just thought he was worried about me, but I never thought that actually Nathaniel had already told his true thoughts. And the gardenia flower on my chest was tattooed when Nathaniel swore that he would marry me when he was 28 years old. Nathaniel loved gardenia flowers the most, loving their pure white and flawlessness. So I tattooed it on my chest, waiting for Nathaniel to marry me. Now, Nathaniel has finally set the wedding date in the year when I'm 28. He's planning the wedding in 7 days. I'm planning how to leave him instead. Although my body is already in a dilapidated state, I still don't want to have any marks related to him on me when I leave. I pointed to the area below the other collarbone and told the owner, tattoo a Chinese trumpet creeper flower here. Nathaniel loves gardenia flowers. But I prefer Chinese trumpet creeper flowers. He wants me to be pure and flawless. But in the remaining days of my life, I prefer to be the Chinese trumpet creeper flower that stands proud on the high wall. It was already evening when I came out of the tattoo parlor. The owner and I really hit it off, and we left each other's contact information and added each other on WeChat. When I was on my way home, I passed a small stall selling cotton candy. I couldn't help but stop. The last time I ate it seemed to be when I was a kid. At that time, my grandmother hadn't passed away yet. When I was so greedy for cotton candy that I couldn't move, she would take out all the change she had on her to buy it for me. She always watched me finish eating it and finally scolded with a laugh, "Greedy girl." Grandmother always liked to see me smile. When she smiled, the wrinkles on her old face became deeper. The cold wind blew by, blowing away the memories. I walked to the stall and bought a cotton candy with a rabbit pattern. It was very sweet. As sweet as I remembered. When passing the corner of the street, I heard a little girl asking loudly, "Mom, look. That ant is so cool. But why is she eating cotton candy? Isn't that something only kids eat?" The mom smiled and explained, "Who said cotton candy is only for kids? Everyone can eat it. Eating something sweet will make people happier." I walked by on my high heels. I heard the little girl's childish voice again, "But, Auntie ate such sweet cotton candy. Why doesn't she seem happy at all? Mom, Auntie looks so lonely." The voices gradually faded away. By the time I got home, the cotton candy was all eaten up, leaving only stickiness all over my hands. I went inside and washed my hands. Then I received a call from Nathaniel. He seemed to be drunk. "Mia." "Yes?" He laughed on the other end of the phone. "There are still 7 days left, and you'll marry me. Tomorrow, I'll take you to choose a wedding dress? Just decide by yourself. You know my size." Nathaniel was silent for a while. I vaguely heard a girl's coquettish voice coming from the other end of the phone. "Nathaniel, let me go with you to try on the wedding dress. Don't you want to see how I look in a wedding dress?" After a long while, Nathaniel's voice was hoarse. "Okay." I just didn't know whether he was answering me or the girl beside him. When I woke up, I heavily crossed out yesterday's date on the calendar. There were still 6 days left. Today, I was going to watch a concert. I changed my clothes, washed up, and put on makeup. I felt a bit uncomfortable physically. I hurt all over, but I could still hold on. In the full-length mirror, the woman was wearing a short skirt that Nathaniel hated the most, showing her slender limbs, with a calm smile, and finally able to make peace with the big and small ugly scars on her body. Below the right collarbone, a Chinese trumpet creeper flower was blooming. The concert was so popular that the streets were empty. I hummed along with the crowd vigorously. "I proudly destroy, I hate the ordinary, and then I remember those are what I love the most." Perhaps I was too involved. It was only after a song ended that I belatedly felt the pain inside my body. I held onto the seat tightly. Suddenly, a box of milk was handed to me. I felt a stabbing pain in my stomach. I looked up and saw a young and unfamiliar face. The boy was wearing a milky white down jacket and smiled at me. "Do you have a stomachache? The milk is warm. You can have it." I took it. The warmth in my palm dispelled some of the chill. "Thank you." It happened to be the break between songs. The boy shook his head. "It's okay. My girlfriend really liked helping others. If she knew that I gave you the milk, she would be very happy." I looked at the empty seat beside him. Was she unable to come to the concert because of something? The boy smiled, but suddenly there was a look of sadness in his eyes. "She passed away. I'm here to watch this concert on her behalf." The milk I just drank seemed to stick in my throat. "Sorry." "It's okay." The music started again, and everyone looked eagerly at the stage. It was time to draw the lucky audience. Rows of audience faces flashed quickly on the big screen. At the moment when the picture paused, I actually saw myself. The camera seemed to think that the boy and I were a couple, and some people around were shouting for us to kiss. The boy quickly took out a photo from his arms and held it up vigorously towards the lens. That was his girl. The microphone was stuffed into my hand, and for a moment, I couldn't say a word. Finally, I just looked at the singer I had liked for many years on the stage and said softly, "I hope more and more people will see you and like you. I hope you'll be better and better." I don't know what to say either. I just wish everyone present, may you all live to be 100 years old. Some people around were laughing. Maybe they didn't understand why my wish was so ordinary and empty. The camera quickly cut away. At the moment when the melody of the next song rang out, I saw the boy beside me gently stroking the outline of the girl in the photo. With red eyes, he said in a very low voice, "Wish my Sway Sway could also live to be 100 years old." At that moment, I don't know why. Suddenly, I also felt like crying. The concert ended. I struggled to get home. I forgot to close the window in the morning, and the room was freezing cold. I closed the window, removed my makeup, and threw myself onto the bed. I randomly scrolled through a short video platform but was pushed a new video of someone I might know. The other person's ID was Lily. In the video, the little girl put on a pure white wedding dress, and the man whose arm she was holding had his face mosaicked. Her eyes were innocent, but there was also a hint of ambition hidden in them. Countdown, 6 days. My boyfriend is going to marry someone else. To have you for a few more days briefly. How I wish this moment could last forever. In the shot, Nathaniel gently put his arm around the girl's waist. His movement was gentle. Countdown, 5 days. I was in fairly good spirits today. I got up early and did a big thing. I donated all of Nathaniel's family fortune that he had kept with me. 8 figures, not a penny left. Nathaniel betrayed me in our relationship, but he didn't hold back in life. Almost all the money he earned over the years was transferred to me, and he only kept some for daily expenses. In the end, I left Nathaniel's name. After all, it was his money that was donated, and it could be considered as accumulating some good deeds for him. As for my savings, I donated half and kept the other half for spending. It's an extremely painful thing that life is coming to an end. So I had to leave a way out for myself and not let myself experience even more painful things, dying before running out of money. However, just as I walked out of the door of the charity organization, I suddenly blacked out without any warning and lost consciousness. When I woke up again, I was already lying in a hospital bed. The nurse said that they had made many calls to my emergency contact using my cell phone, but no one answered. My only emergency contact was Nathaniel. Sorry, I'll go downstairs to pay the bill later. The doctor looked serious and advised me to stay in the hospital. If you don't receive treatment, you may not survive for half a year. I smiled and asked him back, what if I do receive treatment? I can't guarantee how your condition will develop, but I can guarantee that as long as there's a glimmer of hope, we'll do our best to treat you. In fact, there was little hope even with treatment. Thank you, doctor. Still, please help me with the discharge procedures. Just as I walked out of the office, Nathaniel called. I was busy just now and didn't hear it. What's up? I looked at the familiar figure at the other end of the corridor. It's nothing. I lost my cell phone, and a kind passerby helped dial the emergency contact. It's okay as long as you're fine. The wedding is coming soon. Do you need anything? No. There was another silence. Lily's displeased coquettish voice came from the other end. Hurry up. The ice cream is melting. Nathaniel said, call me whenever you need something. The call ended. I frowned as I looked at the acquaintance not far away. It was the owner of the tattoo parlor. She was bending down to pick up the wig that had been knocked off by a passing child. When she looked up, our eyes met. Is it you? She obviously recognized me too. She straightened the crooked wig. I didn't tell you last time. Actually, we're pretty much the same. We're both short-lived. That day, I originally planned to close the store, she smiled. You were my last customer in my career. What's the illness? Leukemia. She smiled indifferently. There's no cure for it. We walked out of the hospital side by side. I took out a cigarette and gave her one. We struggled to light the cigarettes for each other in the cold wind. We looked at each other and suddenly laughed. Damn it, we're really two unlucky ones. We laughed as we watched the smoke dissipate in the wind, just like our upcoming endings. I changed my plane ticket. I wouldn't go abroad anymore. I booked a plane ticket to Yunnan with Charlotte. My body couldn't endure the flight across the Atlantic Ocean anymore. Maybe it was destined that I didn't have the fate to see the scenery of that ocean in this life. The two of us, short-lived as we were, hit it off immediately and both wanted to see Aurora Lake. Last night, Lily posted a new video. Countdown, 5 days. Thank you for enduring your fear and accompanying me to do bungee jumping. I love you too. In the video, Nathaniel and she were tied with safety ropes, standing on a platform 100 meters high, and they jumped down while hugging each other. Because of his fear of heights, his body was a little stiff. But still, at the moment of jumping down, he shouted loudly, "I love you." There were 4 days left before the wedding. Charlotte asked me if there was anything else I wanted to do. I thought for a while and asked her to accompany me to meet someone. On the way, Charlotte asked me, "Is she your friend?" I shook my head. "On the contrary, she's sort of my nemesis." Charlotte raised her eyebrows but didn't ask further. On the way, she also accompanied me to a flower shop to order a bouquet of fresh flowers. Lin Jing was the toughest woman on several streets in the East District. She managed 7 or 8 bars by herself. She was tough on others and also tough on herself. We had been in open and hidden struggles for several years. Neither of us got much advantage. As soon as I entered the bar with Charlotte, we were stopped. "Mia?" She was called out and frowned as she looked at me. "What are you here for again?" "To scold you, old woman." Her face changed instantly. Then she started cursing loudly. I just accompanied her in cursing for half an hour. I felt quite comfortable. I casually picked up the wine beside me and took a sip. When I wanted to take a second sip, Charlotte stopped me. "Just taste it." I had no choice but to give up. I waved at Lin Jing. "Okay, I'm leaving. You should fight and quarrel less in the future and settle down earlier. Otherwise, where will you get the energy to find younger guys in the future?" I had already walked out of the bar, but I could still hear Lin Jing asking the people beside her in astonishment, "Damn it, what was she here for? Just to scold me for half an hour? No, is she crazy?" I turned around and happened to see her kick the younger brother beside her. "Did I lose in the cursing just now? I didn't perform very well just now." I laughed and walked out of the door. Maybe because I was dying, I even thought my nemesis of so many years was kind of cute. On the way home, my cell phone suddenly vibrated. Lin Jing sent me a picture of a bouquet of roses. "Did you send these?" "Yeah." The other side was silent for nearly 2 minutes. Then, messages kept coming in. "Lin Jing, what's the meaning of you sending me flowers? Only young girls like fresh flowers. Do I care about these? You didn't hide explosives in the flowers, did you? Mia, don't think that sending a bouquet of flowers can ease our relationship. This isn't the first time I've received flowers in my life. The flowers are quite pretty. Thanks. Let's have dinner together next time." I looked at my cell phone, smiled, and slowly typed a reply to her, "Yeah, when there's a chance." In the evening, Lily posted another video. "There are only 4 days left. I'm reluctant to part. We went skiing together. I really liked the way you protected me. It was a lot like my dad." In the video, Lily fell in the snowfield. Someone was skiing down from a high place, and Nathaniel rushed over and protected her with his body. After a few days, the video had already gained some popularity, and many people were following it in the comments section. Why? Why do people in love have to separate? The boy's body language clearly shows that he loves her. Why is he going to marry someone else? Is he forced by his family? Oh my God, I feel that the girl has been holding back her tears all the time. No, don't you guys think when you're shipping a couple? They're about to get married but still playing the countdown to breaking up with the ex-girlfriend. Lock up this scumbag and this cheap girl. Don't go and harm the bride. There was a lot of controversy in the comment section. But more of them were onlookers waiting to see how they would end up in 4 days. I didn't have the patience to watch their affectionate moments and swiped past the video. I casually gave a like to the next video of a guy with a sexy dance move. There were 3 days left. I treated my buddies to a meal. Everyone was confused and just thought it was my pre-wedding single night. Bottles of wine were emptied one after another, but the atmosphere became even more lively. Everyone was chatting about these years. Someone mentioned me and Nathaniel. Actually, second brother really loves you, really. The person who spoke was so thin that he almost looked emaciated, but his nickname was Xiao Kuei. Once, second brother got drunk and cried for a long time. He said that he hated himself for not protecting you well. He said that sometimes he didn't even dare to go home because he was afraid of seeing you, afraid that he would remember that it was him who made you like this. He sighed. But, I thought for a long time and still thought I should tell you. Mia, second brother, is keeping a little girl outside. Someone beside him kicked him. Damn it, how much have you drunk? Sister-in-law, Xiao Kuei has drunk too much. I'll take him back first. You guys continue drinking. Xiao Kuei was taken away. No one believed his words and just thought he was talking nonsense because he was drunk. There was a lot of chatter at the table, and everyone was talking about how much Nathaniel loved me. Someone even called Nathaniel in a drunken stupor. What's the matter? Speak. Nathaniel's voice was on speakerphone, short and forceful, yet the ending tone rose slightly. My eyebrows twitched. I knew all too well that it was the tone Nathaniel had after just satisfying his lust. Mia is treating us to a meal. Everyone hasn't seen you for a long time, the guys chimed in. Second brother, are you busy now? Come and drink with us. Nathaniel was silent for 2 seconds. I've got something going on here. You guys drink. Take good care of Mia. All of you, drink less. When it's over, find 2 brothers to send Mia home safely. Got it. After the call ended, the brothers all exclaimed one after another. Mia, look, second brother is so concerned about you. We single dogs are being fed dog food every day. I didn't say anything. I took a sip of juice. The juice was at room temperature, but I still felt a dull pain in my abdomen after drinking it. I didn't bring any painkillers. Unable to bear the pain, I went outside to get some fresh air. Only when I went out did I find that it was snowing. Leaning against the street lamp, I somehow opened Lily's short video. Perhaps because I had just heard so much about Nathaniel, at this moment, I suddenly felt an urgent need to know what they were doing. 5 minutes ago, Lily had just updated the video. He and she were side by side, with the magnificent aurora above their heads. 3 days left in the countdown to breaking up. To fulfill my wish, he took me to Iceland overnight to see the aurora. The aurora is beautiful, but not as beautiful as he is. But what can I do? He won't belong to me soon. Oh well, God, don't worry about me. Let him be happy first. I'm okay. In just 5 minutes, the number of likes on the video had already approached 1,000 and was still on the rise. I'm so sad. God, don't worry about me. Let them be happy first. For the first time, I dislike the legal wife so much. No, did the bride save his whole family's lives? Speechless. A pair of jerks, and there are a bunch of lovesick people in the comment section. I've already bought the resurrection items for my family and friends. The front and rear cameras are broken. My urine is matte. There's no mirror at home. Remember to show the death certificates of your parents before scolding me. I stared blankly at the aurora in the video, dazzlingly beautiful. Suddenly, I remembered when I was 19 years old. I nestled in Nathaniel's arms and looked at the TV enviously. Nathaniel, when you make money in the future, will you take me to see the aurora too? Sure. I'll definitely accompany you in the future. Snowflakes fell on my eyelashes, blurring my vision. I blinked, and the snowflakes melted. But the girl holding hands with him to watch the aurora wasn't 19-year-old Mia. The day before the wedding. Early in the morning, I received a call from Nathaniel. Tomorrow is the wedding, he sounded a bit tired. Are you nervous? Not really. There have been a lot of things going on recently. Have you missed me? Not really. There was another silence. Nathaniel said in a low voice, I know you've been angry lately. Tomorrow, I'll give you a surprise at the wedding, okay? Yeah. After hanging up the call, I went out, hailed a taxi, and went straight to the cemetery. My father, my mother, and my grandmother were all buried there. Before long, that would also be my final resting place. Thinking about it like this, if I could reunite with my relatives in the afterlife after death, then death didn't seem so terrifying anymore. Even. It made me look forward to it a little. If my grandmother saw me, she would surely raise her hand high and chase after me to hit me, scolding me for not listening to her and asking why I came down to accompany her so early. But she wouldn't really be willing to hit me, she would only symbolically pat me on the shoulder and then hug me and ask, has our Mia been wronged over there? Does it hurt a lot when you're sick? Where does it hurt? Grandma will rub it for Mia. Mia, don't be afraid. Grandma will take you home. I brought the bamboo leaf green liquor that my grandmother loved to drink. I poured a cup in front of the tombstone. Are you lonely down there, Grandma? Has your son been filial to you down there? Wait for me a little longer. Our family will be reunited soon. I chatted in front of the grave for a long time. I stood up, rubbed my numb legs, and prepared to leave. After thinking for a while, I turned back. By the way, don't bless Nathaniel anymore. He's an asshole and didn't take good care of me. I'm leaving. I wiped the dust off the tombstone. See you later, Grandma. I bought a lot of cat food. I went to see a stray cat that I had been feeding for a long time. Meow. I looked at the kitten rubbing against my trouser legs in surprise. It was usually very aloof and never paid attention to people. However, I didn't know if it sensed the separation, but for the first time, it took the initiative to get close to me. It gently rubbed against my hand, as if it was saying, please don't go. Eat up? Have more. I rubbed its head. I probably won't see you again in the future. This cat food will be enough for you to eat for a long, long time. This kitten had been adopted by a family before. That family was very kind to it, but after a few days, it ran out by itself and chose to live as a stray. It didn't want to be kept in captivity. Before leaving, I lit a cigarette and looked down at it. Goodbye, kitten. Wish you always be free. On my way home, I heard someone call me, Mia. I recognized the person at a glance. Young Lin? It was an old classmate I hadn't seen for many years. When we were at school, the whole class knew that he had a crush on me, but he had never confessed his feelings, and I also pretended not to know, tacitly. You still remember me? He looked very happy. I gathered my short hair. You haven't changed much. As for you, I'm surprised you can still recognize me. Of course, he looked at me, his eyes so bright. You're the same as when you were at school. You haven't changed at all. How could that be? I couldn't help but smile bitterly. Sometimes I don't even recognize myself when I look in the mirror. The road to helping Nathaniel rise to power was difficult. Over the years, I had to force myself to integrate into their world bit by bit. Until I was barely recognizable, Yang Lin didn't seem to have changed. When he smiled, he was still sincere and warm. In his 30s, he still had a rare youthful charm. He looked at me earnestly. How could I not recognize you? To recognize a person, you look at their eyes, not their clothes or appearance. Mia, you haven't changed. You just got a new hairstyle, and it suits you very well. Just these 2 sentences, but I was frozen in place. I haven't changed. I just got a new hairstyle. Thank you. When we were parting, he said, see you later. I said okay. Actually, I lied to him. It's better not to see each other again. Next time we meet, I guess I'll be like a female ghost. It's not very auspicious. I had already packed my luggage long ago. I threw away the cheap gifts that Nathaniel gave me and sold the expensive ones at a low price on the second-hand platform. Without the affection, those gifts were worthless to me. I didn't have many belongings. Even one suitcase wasn't filled up. I burned the rest. Anyway, when a person dies, their old things will be burned too. It's just a matter of sooner or later. As the sky was getting dark, I dragged my suitcase and left the house that I once regarded as home without looking back. That night, Nathaniel was staying at the hotel where he would pick up the bride tomorrow. He even sent me a message in the middle of the night. See you tomorrow? After so many years, I'm finally going to marry you. I didn't reply to the message. At this time, I was already sitting in the waiting hall of the airport with Charlotte. I also came across Lily's last video. The male protagonist, Nathaniel, finally showed his face. He accompanied her to plant a tree with their own hands and then wrote wishes in a wishing bottle with her. The paper in the bottle carried their wishes. The camera zoomed in. What he wrote was, "May the little girl be safe and sound all her life." And what Lily wrote was, "I hope Nathaniel and I won't be separated." After following them for so long, it really ended badly. I'm crying so hard. Really can't they be together? That bride, whoever you are, if you still have a conscience, just give up. Can't you let them be together? Damn it. I've already blocked them. Why can still see this? Let me curse again. What a pair of scumbags. Any curse backfires on you. I exited the video. I pulled out my phone card and threw it into the trash can. At the same time, the flight reminder came from the broadcast. I walked towards the boarding gate side by side with Charlotte. Without looking back. Yunnan is a very beautiful place. Charlotte and I helped each other to climb the Jade Dragon Snow Mountain. Actually, we only climbed less than half of it. Both of us were in poor health. Reaching half of the way was already the limit of our physical strength, but we still saw very beautiful scenery. We went to eat the mushroom hot pot. It was very delicious. But I vomited after just 2 bites. It was such a waste. Charlotte ate a lot. She said she would eat more on my behalf. We also went to ride elephants. We went to see the Arai Lake. The Arai Lake was so beautiful that Charlotte and I were even eager to jump into the lake side by side to swim and enjoy the wonderful moment. But before we could carry out our plan, we were stopped by the enthusiastic aunt beside us. What are you doing? The aunt, speaking in a very authentic Northeast dialect, hurriedly stopped us. You 2 girls are so pretty. What difficulties can't you overcome? Take Auntie's advice and live well. Living is the most important thing. Everything else is nonsense. Auntie has candies here. They're so sweet. Be good. Eat the candies and be happy. Don't ever think of doing something stupid again. If your parents knew about it, how heartbroken they would be. The aunt was very kind-hearted. Charlotte and I obediently ate the candies and repeatedly promised that we wouldn't do anything stupid again. Only then did the aunt leave, looking back 3 times at each step. The candies were very sweet. So sweet that suddenly we didn't have the courage to commit suicide anymore. We decided to listen to Auntie. Let's live well. Every day we live is a bonus.no. I heard. On that wedding day, Nathaniel almost went crazy. There were piles of messages on WeChat, but I didn't read any of them. Except for Lin Jing's. She sent me a video of the wedding. Nathaniel on the stage was dressed in a neat suit and had a rare gentle look on his face. However, when the door of the banquet hall opened, there was no bride to be seen. His smile froze awkwardly. Lin Jing's camera focused on his face, capturing all his astonishment, panic, and fear. Where's Mia? He shouted on the stage. Where is she? Bring her back to me. He almost sent all his brothers to look for me. But they found nothing. Someone summoned up the courage to ask him, second brother, is it that the videos of you and that little girl were seen by sister-in-law? His body stiffened. What videos? Didn't the videos have mosaics? Someone took out Lily's last video and handed it to him. We also came across it yesterday. The previous videos had mosaics, but yesterday's didn't. Nathaniel snatched the phone and his face suddenly turned pale. Damn it. The phone was smashed to pieces. After the video ended, Lin Jing immediately sent a message. You're really something. You pulled off such a big thing quietly. Where are you? Tell me the truth. Don't tell me you've got a terminal illness. I didn't reply to her. This woman, she guessed it right. Lin Jing was actually a very smart woman. She probably guessed something. Regardless of whether I would reply to her or not, she sent me quite a few more videos. The guests had left. Nathaniel smashed the banquet hall with red eyes. The screens were smashed. The tables were overturned. The man went crazy until he was exhausted. Finally, he crouched at the edge of the stage, hanging his head. It seemed like he was crying. In the video, Lin Jing's voice was completely unreserved. I used to think you had a good eye for men. Now looking at it again. Mia, he's really an ex that you can't even mention in your life. Charlotte and I rented a house by the Arai Lake. We also hired a live-in auntie. She was responsible for cleaning and cooking 3 meals a day. The auntie was a local. She was a bit plump but very kind-hearted and worked very efficiently. She always kept saying that both of us were too thin and it was heartbreaking to see. and then she spent a lot of effort every day researching recipes to cook for us. Today she made dompa pork. Tomorrow she would learn to make snowflake mung bean cake. Actually, I couldn't eat anything anymore. But I couldn't bear to disappoint the auntie's kindness, so I still forced myself to eat a couple of bites each time, and then I would vomit in the toilet for a long time. The woman in the mirror was getting thinner and thinner. Her cheeks had sunken slightly, which made her eyes look even bigger. Charlotte, I called her over. Look, do I have a bony beauty now? She stood beside me. She was also terribly thin. She smiled. I'm about the same. We're like a pair of white bone demons. I came across Nathaniel's short video. He had always hated showing his face. This time, however, he carefully looked at the camera and said, Mia, if you can see this video, please don't swipe it away, okay? The man looked haggard, with a scruffy beard and bloodshot eyes. He no longer had the high spirits he used to have. Where are you? Let me come to find you, okay? There are only two things that I regret the most in my life. One is that I found a girl who looks a lot like you and indulged my desires. I've never loved her. Every minute I was with her, I regarded her as you when you were 18. The other one is that I shouldn't have dragged you into this mess back then. His eyes were red. He tried his best to restrain himself, but he still couldn't help his voice trembling. Over the years, I've always hated myself for not being able to protect you well. I really didn't want to listen anymore and swiped the video away. Charlotte beside me felt sick to her stomach when listening and repeatedly asked me, You won't be soft-hearted and forgive him, will you? Of course not. I casually swiped through the videos and said, Unless he follows me to die. I was lying to her. Even if Nathaniel followed me to die, I wouldn't forgive him. He's too dirty. Nathaniel's video went viral. He and Lily were quickly cursed and became trending topics. For a while, they became synonymous with a scumbag and a slut. I thought the bride, who was rich and powerful, forced him to marry her, so they played this countdown to breaking up. But it turns out that these two jerks are a match made in hell. What was the bride's 10 years of dedication worth? What were my tears in those days for? Being a mistress to this extent, you only deserve 2 words when seeing this situation. The girl was my junior high school classmate. When she was at school, she always put on that innocent face and pretended to be innocent, but behind people's backs, she snatched other people's boyfriends and bullied female classmates. She's extremely disgusting. Ha ha ha, the annoying scumbag and slut finally got what they deserved. So satisfying. No one will scold me this time, right? Soon, Lily's background was dug out completely. The things she did when she was at school were also widely spread in the comment section, and her former classmates kept coming forward to tear her apart. Photos of Lily and Nathaniel were made into all kinds of memes. Every meme had very dirty curses. Even a new catchphrase emerged. Don't be too Lily in life. Compared to Nathaniel's power, she was just a girl with no background. Her address was easily found out, and the enthusiastic netizens nearby began to block her door every day. She lived on the first floor. Every night, her windows would be smashed. Whenever she went out, people would call her a mistress and a bitch. Some people threw rotten eggs into her room and splashed paint on her door. Her whole family became a laughingstock. I heard that Lily got depression. She locked herself in her room every day, read the malicious comments online over and over again, often broke down crying, and then screamed and threw things. Nathaniel dumped her. Because of that video where he showed his face, I heard that he even beat her up, and he didn't hold back. The girl was carried home. It was rumored online. Later, Lily completely lost her mind. She cried and laughed in her room every day, hugged a huge teddy bear doll, and called it Nathaniel. 2 months later, she was sent to a mental hospital by her parents. Someone took a picture at the entrance of the mental hospital. In the video, Lily no longer had the innocent look she used to have. Her hair was messy, and she looked crazy. She was so thin that she almost looked emaciated and looked terrified when she saw anyone. Netizens were quite satisfied with this outcome. Satisfying. She deserved it. waiting for the scumbag's ending. Why should the man get away with it so easily? I heard that the scumbag is in the underworld. Then I wish he gets hacked to death. 25 I might really be an unlucky one. The doctor said that I could still live for half a year. However, just 2 months passed, and my body suddenly broke down. The day after Charlotte and I rode the elephant, I couldn't get out of bed. We had clearly agreed that we wouldn't receive treatment. But Charlotte still sent me to the hospital with red eyes. She was still panicked. After staying in the emergency room for a while, when I came out, I saw Charlotte with red eyes. She cursed, "You scared the shit out of me." She trembled as she wanted to reach for a cigarette. Then she realized that we were in the hospital and gave up. In the ward, we looked at each other for a while and then smiled. Why are people so complicated? Two women who thought they were free and easy and were ready to face death with a smile flinched when death really came. No one can be truly free and easy. And we can't fight against fate either. Charlotte touched the Chinese trumpet creeper flower on my collarbone. She was smiling, but tears kept falling. "This is my last work. You're taking it away so soon, you bastard." Also, she smiled, "The one who leaves first doesn't have to worry." "Don't worry. I'll take your ashes back and bury them behind your grandmother's grave." Charlotte tucked my stray hair behind my ear. "Let you reunite, okay? Also, wait for me down there. Let's reincarnate together." From Charlotte's perspective, Mia died. She died in Kunming where it's like spring all year round. She always said that I was a very free and easy person. I didn't cry when she died. However, when I watched her being pushed into the cremation furnace, when I saw the moment when the flames engulfed her, I suddenly broke down. That was Mia. She was a fine person. Just the day before, she was still smiling and coaxing me to take medicine. But just 1 day later, she was pushed into the fire like this. When she came out again, she had turned into a handful of ashes. Put in such a small box. The domestic helper auntie cried very sadly. She kept murmuring, "If I had known that she was sick, I would have cooked something lighter for her. Should I have stewed more soup for her?" She wore too few clothes the other morning. When I urged her to put on a coat, I might have spoken a bit too loudly. Do you think that child thought I was scolding her? The auntie choked with sobs. She was only 28, 1 year younger than my daughter. I held Mia's urn with red eyes. She always thought that she hadn't grown up as cleanly as her grandmother had hoped. She didn't understand. She was such a good person. That's why the domestic helper auntie, who had only known her for 2 months, was choked with sobs from crying. On the plane back, I looked at the ethereal clouds outside the window and whispered, "Mia, we're going home." I buried her in the cemetery behind her grandmother's, with her grandmother watching over her. The portrait for the memorial was taken in advance. The girl had short hair, clear eyes, and was smiling brightly at the camera. I put flowers in front of her tombstone and whispered to her, "You must be the most beautiful female ghost in this cemetery." I swept the dust off Grandma's grave again and poured some liquor. "Grandma, I brought Mia to you. Don't blame her for coming down to accompany you so early. She had such a hard time. In her last days, she was in so much pain. Finally, she doesn't have to endure the pain and take a lot of painkillers anymore." When I left, it started to drizzle. I walked out of the cemetery with an umbrella, but then I met someone head-on. A man whose real person I had never seen before, but whose name I had heard countless times. Nathaniel. I was stunned for a moment and pretended not to know him and tried to leave. But he stopped me. He stared at me fixedly, his voice hoarse. "I've seen your photo. Your name is Charlotte. I've checked the flight information. You went to Yunnan with Mia." I searched for many days there, but I couldn't find Mia. He seemed to realize something, and his body suddenly started trembling. He raised his eyes and looked at the cemetery behind me. "What are you doing here?" I looked into his eyes and said word by word. "To see Mia off for the last time." "What?" He staggered back a step, and his eyes instantly turned red. "Mia's dead. She died in my arms." Nathaniel froze on the spot. The man who was rumored to have a violent temper was now in tears. "Where is she?" Mia didn't want to see you. If you want to cry in front of her grave, go far away. Don't disturb her reunion with Grandma. I didn't hide Mia's death from him. Because he was bound to know. Mia's tombstone was right behind Grandma's. As long as he went to visit Grandma, he would definitely see it. But I had to tell him. I asked Mia if she would forgive you. Nathaniel's eyelashes trembled. He waited for my answer with a deathly pale face. He knew Mia so well. He could have guessed her answer long ago. I said, Mia said, unless you die. Before she died, she had the initials of your name on her wrist bone removed, and the gardenia flower on her chest removed. She hated gardenia flowers the most. She got her favorite Chinese trumpet creeper flower tattooed on the other side instead. She threw away all the gifts you gave her, donated your money, and burned all her belongings. Do you know why? I said slowly, looking at the dead look in Nathaniel's eyes, and somehow felt a sense of satisfaction. Because she didn't want to have anything to do with you anymore. You're so dirty that you made her sick. Actually, Mia had already come across Lily's videos long ago. Every day when you were counting down the days to break up with your mistress, Mia knew about it. Did you think that the countdown dates on the calendar meant that she was looking forward to it, counting the days and expecting your wedding? Suddenly, I laughed. Nathaniel lowered his eyes, and his eyelids suddenly started twitching violently. I continued. She never thought of marrying you at all. The countdown on the calendar was the days she was counting down to leave you. A man who is rotten to the core. Why on earth did you think she still wanted to marry you? The man lowered his eyes, and his shoulders completely slumped. He choked and said, I've always blamed myself for turning Mia into what she is now. I know she did it for me. That kind of environment couldn't tolerate someone too innocent. My brothers wouldn't follow a sister-in-law who was innocent and naive about the world. She was never a burden. It was me who held her back. With Lily, I always regarded her as Mia. I indulged her just because I wanted to make up for the Mia from back then to some extent. I couldn't bear to listen anymore and sneered, enough. Who are you disgusting? Mia wasn't dead when you cheated. Feeling guilty, you didn't make it up to Mia but went to find a substitute instead? It's really fucking funny. Mia suffered all the hardships, and you replaced making it up to her with a substitute, right? Nathaniel was silent, choking with sobs. I've only loved Mia from the beginning to the end in my life. Actually, his tone trembled, I indulged Lily those days just because I wanted to say goodbye to the past, say goodbye to the Mia from the past. After getting married, I would be devoted to her and make it up to her. I even had a sterilization operation. Mia blocked a knife for me 2 years ago and got injured. Her uterus was hurt. The doctor said that it would be very difficult for her to have children. He smiled self-mockingly. I had the operation and wanted to tell her after the wedding that I could live without children for the rest of my life. As long as she was with me, it would be enough. I cursed and said it was disgusting. Then I thought about it and laughed again. Well, you've finally done something decent. You've lost Mia, and you'll have no descendants. That's good. I stood in the rain, smiling as I watched his comeuppance. I heard that you've basically lost all your territories? TSK, your wife left you, your child is gone, and everyone turned against you. How pitiful. By the way, Mia asked me to tell you that those territories that were taken by Lin Jing were all secretly helped by her when she was alive. She knew all your weaknesses. Just that Mia was soft-hearted. She couldn't bear to see the brothers who had followed her for years in trouble. So she made an agreement with Lin Jing to leave a way out for each brother. They would develop better if they followed Lin Jing. I laughed. Look, Mia thought of a way out for everyone. Even the stray cat she often fed, she gave money to the nearby stores to help take care of it before she left. Except for you. Now you know how much she hated you, right? The rain was getting heavier. It completely soaked him. And I left with my umbrella. I didn't take a taxi. I walked along the road outside the cemetery gate. My mind was in chaos and I thought of a lot of things from the past. Some were with Mia, and some were even further back. Mia always said that I was free and easy. Actually, I also once relied on someone very much. But I was let down. Later, I gradually learned to look at things more open-mindedly. Mia was a bit happier than me. She still had a grandmother who loved her, but I had no family. I grew up as an orphan, depending on the kindness of many people. Suddenly, my thoughts were interrupted by a car speeding by. A black Land Rover rushed through the rain curtain. It crashed heavily into the roadside fence. There was a loud bang. I remembered the license plate with the last 3 digits being 999. I heard Mia mention it before. It was Nathaniel's car. I held my umbrella and watched coldly as the flames shot up into the sky over there. Unfortunately, a passing vehicle called an ambulance. The kind-hearted passerby driver dragged Nathaniel out of the car. I didn't look any further and stopped a passing taxi and left. Because I knew, no matter how serious his injuries were, Nathaniel would never be able to live a normal life again in this lifetime. Nathaniel didn't die after all. But he was living a life worse than death. The person he loved the most refused to see him even on her deathbed. His brothers hated him for his heartlessness, believing that he had caused Mia's death, so they abandoned him and followed Lin Jing. He lost his business territories and all his money had been donated. That car accident didn't take his life. But it took his legs. Nathaniel became a real cripple. He didn't even have the courage to commit suicide. I guessed. It was because he didn't have the face to go down there and see Mia. Once when I was sweeping Mia's grave, I saw him in the cemetery. He was wearing a long cotton-padded coat that covered his legs. He sat stiffly and numbly in a wheelchair, looking at Mia's tomb from a distance. In the wind and snow, he was like a rigid statue. He watched for a very long time. Until I left, he didn't dare to take a single step forward. However, this should be the last time I came to sweep Mia's grave. Since she was buried, my health had been getting worse day by day. But, without Mia, there was no one to coax me to take my medicine anymore. Sometimes, at night, I would be woken up by the pain. I took a lot of painkillers, and this cycle repeated itself. Finally, on a snowy day, the last moment of my life came. I lay in the hospital bed, my eyes fixed on the window. The withered branches were covered with a thin layer of snow, everything was a vast expanse of white, and the trees seemed to have welcomed a new life. My vision gradually became blurred. I seemed to see Mia. She stood in the snow and stretched out her hand to me. "Let's go, Charlotte. Don't be afraid." I closed my eyes and surprisingly, I could really accept death calmly. I had already prepared my own funeral arrangements in advance and also bought a cemetery plot. It was very close to Mia's. The tombstone next to mine was erected just last year. The girl in the portrait for the memorial had a round oval face, and there was a small dimple on her left cheek when she smiled. She looked gentle and beautiful. It sounded really nice. I liked this new neighbor very much. Before my consciousness dissipated, I thought that when I got to the underworld, I would open a tattoo parlor. First, I would tattoo a Chinese trumpet creeper flower on Mia who had become a female ghost. Because the Chinese trumpet creeper flower was very much like her.